Hi, in this video we'll be going over the continuation of the C# video tutorials, so csharp.net. So we'll be continuing with, we'll be moving on to parameterized constructors and overloading. So we haven't really talked about that too much. So a constructor that accepts arguments is known as a parameterized constructor. A class can have multiple versions of the same method, which are known as overloaded methods. So you haven't really done them too much, actually a little bit. We haven't really taken any arguments in the constructor, so this is pretty much a constructor here. It is a constructor. So for, like, we just started working in other classes, multiple classes, but you've seen me, if you've been watching the C# playlist on my channel, then you would have seen that I use fields and I use a constructor, but I haven't done any parameters for a while because we haven't really created too many objects where we needed that. So now we're going to be doing a bank account class, which is like a classic computer science problem. It's not really a problem, but it's like a classic example. So for example, you could use this in like an app or something. So we're going to show you, well, I'm going to show you how to, based off my professor stuff, is how to take parameters in an object in a class when we create an object. So in a class when we create an object. So how to take object parameters in the constructor to help set up the object. So remember, a constructor sets up the object. So once you remember that, you'll remember that for a long time. I remember that from my first object-oriented programming class, which was Java. Before that I did C, and I did MATLAB, and I did UML design. And I did some other language that was like, kind of like I don't know what it was. It was like, kind of like, I forgot, there was a name for it. It was a way to like just code art stuff. It was very similar to JavaFX, but like a simple version of it. Okay, so anyways, pretty much we have, we'll talk about a constructor and overloading, so parameterized constructors, so we'll do some examples of that first. We'll be getting into a lab here, so we'll be talking about this form in a sec. So you'll have to set that up. Not yet, just hold on. Okay, so a constructor that accepts arguments is known as a parameterized constructor. A class can have multiple versions of the same method, which are known as overloaded methods. So you can overload constructors and methods. So I've talked about this before if you've seen some of the notes. We haven't really done too many examples of them. But for example, each method or constructor has a signature, which is like the type and number of parameters. So each overload is like, you've heard me say the word overload before when I've been describing, for example, like ways to call one method or one constructor. Whereas basically just means there's more than one. So for example, this constructor here could take a string, whereas we could have another one that takes an int. We could have one that takes 2 ints here, and then have another one that takes a string and an int in another one. So that's how you overload them. You can't have the same types. You can have both with 3 string types, because the compiler's going to get confused. There's going to be an error. Okay. So constructors can accept arguments in the same way as other methods. So a constructor accepts arguments. So a constructor that accepts arguments is known as a parameterized constructor. That's like a classic. That'll be a classic test question, multiple choice. Pretty easy. Because it has parameter variables. So when a class has a parameterized constructor, you can pass initialization values to the constructor when you create an object. So when you create an object, you can pass in like arguments to the parameterized constructor. That's all for the notes, actually. So I don't know if you're writing those down or just listening. So we'll just move on to this lab. Sorry, something happened to my screen here. Okay, how can I close that? There we go. Okay. Sorry, where am I now? Okay, I've lost my spot here. 1 second, apologize about that. Step back here. Okay, so in the meantime, you can start creating this form here. So we have one label at the top, so you can just start placing them. One label, 2 text boxes, and 2 buttons. I don't know if you're following along. If you're not following along in your IDE, so I'm just going to give the viewers a sec to create that. So here we have, if they are following along or coding along, so we have a balance label here. That's a label. There's supposed to be another label beside it, but I didn't bother putting that. Okay, so we have, so this is the deposit text box. So this is a text box. This is a withdrawal text box. That's the name, that's the identifier. That's the name property. And we have a deposit button, and we have a withdraw button as well. So that's it. You can pause that, set it up if you're following along, or if you're just watching, that's fine too. Okay, so we'll be moving on to probably a separate class here. We're going to be setting up properties again to start. So we'll have, so this one will be called bank account. So I'm in Rider, you can use Visual Studio. You could use, I don't know, WordPad++, text, Word, whatever it's called, Notepad++, or I haven't really used that one actually. There's also Atom 1. I haven't used Atom 1. I heard it's good. I just stick with JetBrains stuff. JetBrains stuff is good. If you have a student account, it's all free. Otherwise, there's like a 30-day trial. If you have a student email, you can get it for free, even if it's an old email. Or you can just use Visual Studio. It's up to you, whatever you prefer. Okay, so I'm going to go to create a class. I'm going to go here to my Solutions Explorer. I think that's what it's called. I'm going to find the form here, Form1.cs. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to then click add. I don't think you can see the extra windows because it's Microsoft camera. So here we'll go with the class/interface. So I'm going to click that here. I'm going to name it. I'm just going to call it bank account. Kind of like double capitalized without, like, for example, instead of a camel case, we have like a double capital. Okay, so we have our class here in our namespace. Now we'll just add the using directives to access the libraries. 1 sec here, let me just grab a sip of my water. It's going to be 30 degrees today. Americans are like, that's freezing. I mean, it's going to be 30 degrees Celsius, so it's going to be boiling. It's only spring here too. Okay, so let's create that. So we'll just bring this stuff down here. Move the namespace down. I wish it was 30 degrees Fahrenheit. It would be nice and chilly. At least you could sleep properly. Okay, so here we have, for example, using, we'll go with using system. And we'll go with using system dot collections dot generic. Then here we'll have using system dot linq. And we'll say using system dot text. And here we'll have using system dot threading.tasks. I know we don't write them that often, but for the classes you do in Rider, there might be a way to add them yourself. I'm not familiar with the options and all that. It's good to practice and just kind of see what other namespaces and classes are out there as well. Okay, so we'll start doing our backing fields. So remember, a backing field is used to set up a property, so we'll just do that here. So they're going to be a field, so it's going to be under the, sorry, not in here. It's actually, oh, it will be in here, my bad. Did I do it up here last time? Hopefully not. Okay, so here we'll go with private. It's a little tricky because if you're used to other languages, because C# is the one language that has an extra block. It has a namespace outside of it. Most languages don't. So usually this is your class and this is your constructor here. If you're coming from like another language. But in this case, this is our namespace and this is our class. So here we could have, for example, some fields here. So we'll say private decimal balance. And remember, we're going to use the convention for the backing field. The backing fields are for the properties. Remember that. They're used to set up the properties. So private decimal underscore balance. Actually, I think that's it. For just one backing field, and then here we'll have the constructor. This is going to be our first constructor here. So public, how do you create a constructor? Well, you reference the class name exactly as it is, like that. Then here we'll pass a parameter, so we're going to pass a decimal, we'll pass a starting balance, just like that. Okay, so now we go with the backing field. We'll say that the backing field, this is your common, this is like the common way to set up your instance data, because this is instance data here because it's object data. And the constructor sets up the object data, but when we're saying here that the bank account object is going to take a starting balance when you instantiate the object, then in that case we're going to point the backing field to the parameter or argument in this case. That's like your classic way to set up objects. Just classic OOP stuff. You'll do that like if you're doing an OOP language, you're going to be doing, that's all you're going to be doing. It's really easy and it's actually kind of fun to just do the same thing every time, but with different data obviously. But you get good at it that way, so it's easy to do. But in this case, C#, we're going to, instead of passing a normal field, we're passing a backing field, so it's a little bit different. So here we're passing balance to point to the parameter starting balance. So now the backing field has like an imaginary pointer right up here to the parameter, to the parameter here. Okay, so we're going to make a read-only property, if you can remember, if you watch the notes at least. We're going to make this one, this balance property read-only. So to make a property, to make a property read-only, then we don't create the setter for it. So we just create the getter, so here we'll just go, for example, public, and remember so you have to reference it as public. Because a property is supposed to be public because it's supposed to be accessed outside of other classes. So here we'll go with public. Then we'll pass decimal, because the type's going to be the same as the backing field in which you want to reference. So here we'll just say public decimal. Okay, so this is going to be balance. Okay, so we're going to call it balance. I'm just going to keep it lowercase. It's up to you whether you want to keep it uppercase, like how Microsoft does it. It's up to you. Because remember, the thing is that you might get confused with other variables, even though it's not gonna interfere with them, I think. Unless you tried to create two backing fields here with the same name. I don't think that's gonna work, but if you have like a local, it should work with this because this is a field. Just don't get confused with them. Okay, so balance, so we're gonna have public decimal balance. This is gonna be our property. Definition. Then here, remember we have to call get with no parentheses. That's the trick here. And then we're gonna do return the backing field balance like that. You could have said this, but we're not gonna use this. You can though. Whoops. Okay, so there's gonna be no setter, no set property. No, let's just say no set declaration, because we want. Let's just say no set declaration. Read only. Let's just say that read only like that. So this is a read only property. You can't mutate it. You can only access it. Therefore, it makes it read only. Okay, so now we'll have a deposit method. Let's go with public void. Then we'll say with deposit. If I can type. And we'll say decimal amount. So it takes a decimal amount. And we'll say that balance plus equals amount. Or balance points to balance plus amount. What's happening with the... There's an error somewhere, so let me just see where that is. Here. Okay, no, public decimal balance. Let's just see where the error is. Let's go with the, I'm going to click the problems to see. It's saying that the property has no setter. That's not very helpful because we don't want it to. Unless this is a different framework from what the IDE is in that I'm looking at in my professor's notes, that could be the problem. That's always confusing. Okay, so the property WindowsFormsApp bank account dot balance has no setter on line 30, but that's not even the right line. Get. Okay, let's just check that out here. Return underscore balance. Close parentheses. Public decimal balance. We closed it. Then we have public void deposit. Takes parameter decimal amount. Then we say balance. Okay. This was my mistake here, I think. Should have an underscore there. There we go. Okay. So sometimes the IDE doesn't tell you the exact error. I noticed that about C#. It's not very precise, so it'll be like, oh well, there's a missing semicolon here. But the error is going to be something completely different. It's going to be like there's a parameter missing or something like that, or like a spelling mistake. But it'll be like there's a semicolon missing. I noticed that a lot in C languages. Even in a framework of C++, I've seen similar problems like that, so be careful. I've seen that Java is more precise. It tells you, even Python's a little bit more precise as well. It tells you where the error is a little bit more exact. Okay, so we have public void deposit dest takes a decimal amount. So remember, we're referencing our backing field, not another parameter, so my mistake if you got confused. So it's balanced with an underscore. Our backing field, we're going to reference our backing field. So the thing is, notice how we're accessing our backing field in another method. So you can do that instead of setting it here. I think that was the point, to just show that you can. So you can have other methods to set your backing field as well. It's up to you. This one does. I don't think it's recommended though, but you can do that. Okay, so here we'll have, for example, a public void withdraw. Then here we'll say decimal amount. So it takes a decimal amount again. Underscore balance. Points to, minus equals amount. Okay, so that's public void withdraw takes a decimal amount, underscore balance minus equals amount, like that. And that's it. That's our whole class. So this object is going to take a, I thought we had a parameter here. Public class. Okay, yeah, so not here. So the constructor is going to take the parameter. So once we pass it a parameter, the balance is going to point to that. Then here you can just get the balance if you want, which is read only. Then here we can actually deposit and the vacuum field will change. And then when you instantiate another object, it will update. So it's a little bit confusing. This is just one way you can work with OOP stuff in C#. Pretty much, it is pretty much just standard OOP stuff, object-oriented programming. They make it easy, so the like C++, C#, Java, it's all similar. Okay, let's see. Even JavaScript is similar as well. Okay, so here, let's just move on to the next one. So we're going to have a field in our class, so we're going to have to switch to the other source file, so I'm going to click the Form1 file. Okay, so here we'll go with a field here. So we'll call this, so this is going to be a field, it's going to be an object field. Okay, so we're going to instantiate an object here. So let's go down here, and I'm going to say that we're going to instantiate an object in a comment. Instantiate and initialize an object here. So go with we'll go with private. So it'll be a private object. So we'll say private. Go with private. We'll call it bank account. We'll say bank account. We'll call it account. So that's the name for it. We'll point it to new, and then we'll reference the class name again, account. And here in these parentheses, where we usually leave the objects empty, we'll pass in, for example, a balance here, something like that. The dream balance. Okay, so here we'll then pass a, it's probably not even enough, this amount, this balance is not really not even enough to last forever in this world. Okay, so now let's have, for example, let's have a Form1 load. Forgot how to do that actually in code. Okay, I think I have these somewhere. I think I kind of know how to do it. I'm just going to look at my notes just to make sure. Okay, one sec here. So C#, Form1 load. Okay, I have this. It's actually not very hard at all. Okay, so we're going to go up here. So like they do it by the drag and drop, so I'm going to show you guys how to do it in the, well, I've done it before if you're watching the playlist, the whole playlist. But if you're not, if you're just here for a certain subject, then underneath the initialize component method, I'm going to go, we're going to need a few things, a button as well, or 2 buttons. Okay, so we're going to go this to reference our form, dot, load. You're going to see it pop up in the IntelliSense, which is an event handler. So it says event space event handler space systems.windows.forms.form.load occurs before a form is displayed for the first time. So before it actually runs, it's gonna actually, like, as soon as it runs, this is gonna execute first, basically after the initialize component method, I think. Excuse me. So then here we'll go this.load plus equals, we'll go with form1 underscore load. That's what we're going to call it. That's it. Then underneath here, we go private void form1 underscore load, like that. So private void form underscore load takes parameter objects sender, same objects as normal. Object sender, comma, event args e. Okay, so now we'll go back to the normal code. So on startup, then we're going to set the balance label to the account balance that was passed in the object, I guess. Okay, so notice we call this property balance, like that. That's the tricky thing about properties. We're going to access this now. So to do that, we're not going to access our backing field. But why? Why can we not access our backing field from here? Well, let's try. So let's go with balance. Well, the answer is because it's encapsulated, which means it's secure. So if we go here, balance label dot text points to account dot balance. Okay, so now let's try this. Dot underscore. We don't see anything. Look, dot. Well, I don't think you can see it, but basically we just have balance here, like that. We don't have dot and underscore. Because this field is private. Now if we change that to public, we'll be able to access it. So instead, we're accessing this accessor method, which is public, which allows us to return the balance without actually changing the field itself. So that's the point of encapsulation. Okay, so here let's go with that. So we'll go balance label.text points to account dot. Then here we'll reference balance dot. Then we'll cast it to a string with the toString method, like that. And here we'll pass the currency format string, like that. This is just a C and a literal. And that's it. Now we're going to need a deposit button and a withdraw button. And there's an exit button, but I skipped that because we've been doing the exit button a lot lately, so I'll just skip that. Okay, so deposit button, let's just check out what it is, just to make sure it's the right name. I'm not sure if I called this withdrawal button, or did I just call it withdraw? Okay, so just withdraw and deposit button. So I'll just give you guys a sec there. We're about half an hour in. I'm gonna grab a sip of my water here. Alright, let's move on to the next method now. which is going to be our deposit button underscore click. So we haven't set that up yet. We could just click it. So if you want to, you can just click the button. I think I have an extra method in here, hopefully not, that I clicked. Okay, maybe not. So here you can just basically click this, double click this button, it'll auto generate your event handler for you. But if you want to code it and feel like a Microsoft dev, then you can just basically, we're going to reference the button here. So you could just, we've already kind of like dragged and dropped it. You could place it with the code. I've kind of done that stuff earlier on. If you're interested, we're still going to be doing a a layout lab. We're gonna do at least one of those before we're done. Probably 2 of them. Okay, so we have so we're just gonna go to the constructor here and just find those and then tell a sense. It's going to know that it's already defined. The compiler is going to know because we already set the properties up here with the name. So I can click this button and it's going to know that it's already been created. So for example, I could go here, I could go with, what do we call it, deposit button, if the keyboard would work. Deposit button dot click, pretty much just like kind of how we set up the load. We'll go plus equals new event handler. And we'll pass in deposit button underscore click like that. Semicolon. We'll do the same thing for the withdraw button. Plus equals new event handler. I'll pass in withdraw button underscore click. Okay, so then under all this stuff, we'll set up those. So we'll go with deposit button underscore click. Oh, that's wrong, sorry. We'll go with private void, then go with deposit button underscore click. Here we'll pass in object sender, comma, event args. Then that button should light up yellow, and then here we'll have, or that area here. Then we'll have here, for example, private void withdraw button underscore click takes parameter object sender, comma, event args. Whoops. Hit some shortcut on my keyboard, it created all that extra junk. Okay, so now these should light up yellow, so that means the error is gone. I'm just using the writer default, I forgot what it is. Just a writer default thing, the default theme, one of the dark themes. Okay, so here we'll go with the deposit button. So we'll create a local amount of type decimal, well, a local decimal named amount. So go with, actually there's not going to be any private. I think it would be private. Actually, let's see, decimal amount. I think it might be private by default. That's okay. So we'll just go. Actually, let's just check if them. Sometimes, actually, let's just see. Is it private? I think it is private by default. Actually, I don't think it matters because, actually, no, I don't think. Because it's a private method, so everything inside is going to be private. So that's fine. But if you do that for a field, I believe it's going to be private automatically. C# is a little bit different than Java, where Java would be public automatically. So just be careful and double check. Sometimes they get mixed up with other languages. Okay, so here we'll go. I'm leaning towards that it's private though. In C# for a field. Okay, so we have decimal amount. That's going to be our local decimal. Then here we'll go with if. We'll say if decimal So if decimal dot try parse, we'll pass in deposit text box dot text comma out amount. So we have our decimal amount there. So we have our, so basically we're just saying if decimal dot try parse. So we've seen this method before if you're watching the playlist. So it's a Boolean method, so that's why we're using it in an if statement. It returns true or false, and it's kind of a special method because it also sets up a value with -1 if this returns false, but if this returns true. So what are we trying to do here? So if it returns true, then okay, so how do I remember this method? We're trying to pass this string decimal text box dot text, which is a string, as a decimal. So if that's successful and it's true, the decimal amount gets stored, well, the decimal gets stored in the amount variable, which is of type decimal. If this method returns false, then -1 gets stored in amount, and then that's it. So in that case here, I'm just going to open a block. So then here we'll say account, we're going to reference our object. Actually, sorry, no, we're not going to, actually I think we are going to reference our object. Let me just make sure I have amount and account correct here. Okay, so we have decimal amount up here. We're going to pass this amount. Decimal amount up here, we're passing this as amount here. Okay, so under here we are going to reference our account object, which we have up here, which is a field. We can access it in the class, but not outside the class. But since it's a field, all methods and constructors can access it. Okay, so here we'll go with account.deposit, passing in amount, like that. Is that still in the if? I think it is. I think all of this is in the if here. So underneath that, then we'll say balance label dot, what's wrong with that? Spelled wrong. Okay, balance label dot text property points to account dot balance dot toString, like that. Passing in a formatting string with a C in it. I always wondered why they did it as a string and not a character, but I think maybe because there's other ones where you can have multiple letters or numbers as well. Okay, so under that here we'll reference our deposit text box dot, and then we'll just clear it at the end. That's the if. So then underneath that we'll have an else. So if that try parse returned false, then here we'll just show an error. So we'll say message box dot show, and then we'll just pass we'll just say invalid amount and then comma error, like that. Alright, so there's just the last one here. So we have private void deposit button underscore click. Now we have private void withdraw button underscore click. So here we'll say that it takes a decimal amount like that. We'll have the same try parse, so if decimal dot try parse. Try parse will pass in the withdraw text box. Dot text, comma, out amount, like that. So here we'll say that we want to call our account object and say we want to call the withdraw method, passing in the amount as a parameter, or as an argument in this case. So in the if, we'll just go down here and we'll say that we want our balance label. So balance label dot text points to account dot balance dot, sorry, it should be lowercase because we're accessing our property. So account dot balance property dot toString, like that, passing in the currency formatting string like that. Okay, so underneath that we'll just have one more to go withdraw text box dot clear. So we're going to clear the text box GUI like that, so the user can enter something else freshly next time. And underneath here we'll have an else. We'll open up a block and then we'll say messagebox.show. And if that try person worked, then we're going to show that it's an error. So we'll just say invalid amount, comma, we'll just say error like that. And that's pretty much it. There is an exit button, so we'll just skip that. So we'll just go up. Oh, I'll just go up here. So I'm just going to run this, and then you won't be able to see the form, but I'll just explain to you from the drag and drop what's happening. Okay, so where are we at here? Okay, so I'm just going to run the form here, and then we're going to run the app. It's just going to be like a Windows pop-up. So I'm just going to save that and run it. However, at the top is our balance here. This is our amount. This is our amount for deposit, and this is our amount for withdraw. Then you just click the buttons, and then it. Yeah, I guess we're just going to. Pretty much, it's just like a pretend kind of ATM machine or something. Okay, so here we're gonna go. We're just gonna we're gonna deposit like something here like that. So now see how the balance text box updated. And we can withdraw the same amount just to test. There we go, see? Actually, you can't see, okay. So what's going to happen is that, oh, sorry, I forgot about that. Okay, so at the top here we have our balance. So it says like 10 million here at the top. Then I'm going to click here. I'm going to enter a number, click deposit. So pretty much you can deposit into the account. Then you can click here, type some numbers, and withdraw from the account, and everything updates. So we're in this lab, it's just like an easy app example, but we were able to instantiate some objects, move some data around here and there. So it's good practice for object-oriented programming stuff. So that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys liked the video, you can like and subscribe to support the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. In the next video, let's just see what we're going to be doing here. Okay, so we'll be doing overloaded methods. So this wasn't really overloaded. Was this overloaded? I don't believe it was. Why is that? Okay, so if we would have, okay, so if I said that this was going to be an overloaded tutorial, I apologize about that. We will be doing some later on, but pretty much here we just got to practice properties and taking a parameter. So a parameterized constructor, that was the first part. So now that we know how to take parameters in the constructor, we'll be creating overloaded constructors. So here we could have said that, for example, that this bank account, we could have had like another one like this. Sorry if the keyboard worked. And we could go like this, if it's gonna copy. No, didn't copy yet. So we're gonna be doing an example of this in a sec, in the next video. But we could have said that this takes a decimal starting balance. We could have said that it takes like an int, I don't know, max limit or something. Like you have a max limit on your number of withdrawals. So in this case, this would have been an overloaded constructor because it takes two parameters. It takes a decimal and an int. This one could have taken, we could have had another one that takes two decimals. Basically they just can't, you can't have another one that also takes a decimal and an int because the compiler will get confused. So we'll be continuing to discuss that later on. So thanks for watching. If you guys like the video, you can like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. If you want to check out more videos, it's in the C# playlist on my channel, csharp.net. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Thanks.